After more than a decade of teasers and anticipation, Lost Soloside has finally arrived. This is a game that started as a one-man indie project, caught the attention of an entire industry, and was carried forward as a full studio release. The trailers promised a visually breathtaking action RPG, fast-paced combat, cinematic flair, and a mysterious fantasy world. But now that it's here, does it live up to that promise? Honestly, not quite. The game dazzles with visuals, but beneath the surface, its mechanics are shallow, its movement unpolished, its story undercooked, and its voice acting distractingly bad. This review is going to break down all of it, from the instant spectacle of its flashy combat to the frustration of its platforming, the disappointment of its narrative, and the awe strength that nearly redeems it, the sheer beauty of how it looks. This is Lost Soul Aside, more style than substance.
Yeah, me. I figured since we're in the big leagues now, it'd be best if I had a code name. The Fire Dragon.
That's a bit much, no?
The opening hour of Lost Soul Aside is designed to impress. The game throws you into sweeping vistas, high-speed cutscenes, and combat encounters that look ripped straight out of an anime battle. The first thing you notice is just how gorgeous it is. The Unreal Engine visuals are sharp, environments are full of detail, the character animations are smooth and stylish, explosions light up the battlefield, magic effects swirl across the screen, and particle effects make every swing look dramatic. It's the kind of game that screenshots beautifully and plays well in trailers. And for a while I was hooked. That first hour is full of spectacle and you can't help but admire it. But once the visual wow factor wears off, the cracks start to show. That's when you realize that Lost Soul Aside is built like a flashy demo stretched into a full game. The visuals carry it, but the mechanics beneath don't keep up. One of the first cracks comes in the movement system. On the surface, it works. You can run, dodge, dash, but the way it feels is basic. There's no weight, no nuance, no sense of momentum. It's serviceable, but not satisfying. This becomes a real problem during platforming sections, and while platforming isn't the core of the game, when it does show up, it's rough. Jump feels floaty, the landings aren't precise, and the camera doesn't always cooperate. In some cases, you can't even clearly judge distances because the background and platforms blend visually. The result is that platforming feels less like a challenge of skill and more like a battle against the controls. And because the game is very linear, you can't avoid these moments. You're forced to deal with them, even when they kill the pacing. It's frustrating because platforming doesn't appear often, but when it does, it pulls you out of the experience. In a game that's supposed to feel slick and stylish, these clumsy sections stand out even more. Combat is clearly meant to be the highlight, and at first it is. The animations are flashy, the particle effects are gorgeous, and the pace is fast. You zip across the battlefield, chaining melee attacks with magic bursts, and it looks incredible. For the first few encounters, I thought I was in for something special. But the more I played, the more I realized the combat is extremely shallow. Combos don't really branch into complexity. You have a few strings, a couple of flashy finishers, and that's it. The system doesn't evolve over time. After about an hour, I had already seen most of what combat had to offer. Enemies don't help matters. Standard mobs rarely pressure you, often standing around waiting to be hit. They don't force you to adapt, they don't demand new tactics, they're just there to be cut down in style. Bosses are the exception. Boss fights show glimpses of what this combat system could have been. They force you to dodge with better timing, they hit harder, they punish mistakes. In those moments I had fun, I felt challenged. But those moments are rare. Most of the time combat is a repetitive loop of flashy animations over shallow mechanics. It's the perfect example of a game that looks amazing in trailers, all spectacle but little depth once you're actually playing it. If the combat is shallow, the voice acting is just plain bad. Some cutscenes don't even have full dialogue. Characters will just gasp, grunt, or make vague sounds over and over. when they do speak, the delivery is flat, awkward, and emotionless. Scenes that should feel dramatic come across as unintentionally funny. Imagine a tense cutscene where one character is supposed to be shocked, but instead of dialogue, you just hear them gasp 5 or 6 times in a row. That's not drama, that's comedy. The soundtrack does a better job. The music is big, orchestral, and cinematic. The combat themes add energy, and the quieter tracks set the mood well. But the music alone can't carry the story, and the voice work undercuts it at every step. The story had potential: a hero on a journey, a world under threat, personal stakes tied to family. It's the kind of setup that could have worked, but the execution is weak. Cutscenes feel rushed, characters lack depth, and the dialogue rarely carries any weight. Instead of pulling you into the world, the story pushes you through a series of cliches without too much emotional investment. Combine that with the game's extreme linearity, and it gets old quickly. Every stage is basically a corridor: move forward, fight some enemies, watch a cutscene, repeat. There's no exploration, no meaningful secrets, no branching paths. It's just one straight line after another. By the 1 hour mark, I already felt like I had seen everything the game was capable of narratively. And that's a huge problem for a game that took more than a decade to finally arrive. Because of that linear design, replay value is almost non-existent. Once you've seen the story and gone through the combat, there is no reason to come back. There are no new builds to try, no alternate endings, no real incentives. And that's the most disappointing part. You can see what this game could have been, with more refined movement, deeper combat, better storytelling, and real exploration. It could have been a fantastic action RPG. Foundation is there, but it's like the developers stopped halfway. They delivered the spectacle, but not the substance. So here's my final verdict on Lost Soul Aside. It's a game that looks incredible, with some of the best visuals I've seen in an indie-originated project. But once you start playing, it quickly becomes clear that the beauty is only skin deep. Movement is basic, platforming is unpleasant, combat is flashy but shallow, voice acting is terrible, and the story fails to live up to its potential. If you were hyped from the trailers, you may want to temper your expectations. This isn't the deep, groundbreaking action RPG it could have been. It's more of a visual showcase than a fully realized game. At the end of the day, Lost Soul Aside is an ambitious project that never truly came together. It's worth a look if you're curious, but for most players, disappointment will outweigh the spectacle.